what does it take to win? I think that's really what I want to sort of talk to you about today. You know, lots of people say you got to have a good game plan, you got to have great preparation, you got to have a foolproof system. In our case, it's offense, defense, special teams, recruiting, you know, all those types of things that we have to do that you can relate to what you have to do. And you have to have ability to adjust those things to the circumstance that you're in. But to me, the real key to winning is all about mindset. Mindset in your organization, all right, that's what's going to help you win. Because if you don't have the people thinking and focusing on what it takes to win, you're going to really struggle to be able to do that. And to me, it starts with, you got to have a vision. You got to have a vision for what you want to accomplish in your organization. You know, our vision is to create an atmosphere and environment where our players have a better chance to be successful in life because they were involved in our program through personal development, student academic success, being the best football players that they can be, and investing in their future and their ability to be successful in the future. So it doesn't really matter what your vision is. Could be to climb Mount Everest. You know, Michael Johnson spent 1,000 hours on affecting his time in the 200 meter so he could win a gold medal in the Olympics. 1,000 hours he invested. So it doesn't really matter what you want to accomplish or what you want to do. You have to have a vision for it, and then you have to understand, here's a defined process of things that we need to do to be able to accomplish this. So I don't care, again, if you climb Mount Everest, right, if you want to improve your track time, you want to win a championship in football, you want to have a more successful business, it doesn't really matter. But the most important thing, and where people fail the most, is you have to have the discipline to execute it every day. So what is discipline? And I'm sure you've heard doing what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, the way it's supposed to get done, right thing, right way, right time, all the time. But really the way I define it, and I think everybody in here can relate to this, I know our players can relate to it because we all do it 100 times a day. And we've probably already done it at some point today. Here's something that I know I'm supposed to do that I really don't want to do. Can you make yourself do it? And over here, there's something that you know you're not supposed to do, but you want to do it. Can you keep yourself from doing it? Well, this sort of moral code, right, that we all make decisions and choices about every day is what helps us stay focused on the process of what we need to do to accomplish the vision that we have. I mean, it's easy to figure out. Let's just say the simplest example is I want to go on a diet. I want to lose 10 pounds. That's my goal. That's my vision. Slim, fast, clearly defined, everything that I'm supposed to do. Where do we fail? After 3 days, back to eating pie and ice cream. All right, so that's the issue. All right, is how do we get people to do the right things and execute the plan that we have all the time? Am I going to do what I feel like doing, or am I going to choose to do the things I need to do to accomplish the goal and the vision that I have? This is a huge hurdle for everybody, because how many times have you heard somebody say, I don't feel like doing that? It doesn't matter what you feel like. You got to make choices and decisions based on what you want to accomplish and what you want to do. You got to be committed to it, and it's got to be important to you if you're able to do that. You know, you have the right to fail. Each and every one of you have the right to fail. And I tell our players this all the time. You have the right to make the choices and decisions to fail. But you really don't have the right to make those choices and decisions that affect everybody else and cause them to fail. So you have to be responsible for your own self-determination in doing the right things. Now, but the individual makes the team what it is. It doesn't go the other way. You know, it's not about, some people think that Alabama has a successful team, so if I join that team, I'm going to be successful. It's not how it goes. You know, there's no I in team. I know you've heard that many times before, but there is an I in win. And that stands for the individual who has the right intensity, immediacy, sense of urgency, and intelligence to carry out and do the role that he needs to do. So once you make this commitment, once you have this goal, all right, what sacrifices are you willing to make? Because you're certainly going to have to make some if you want to accomplish something of significance. What skills are you going to have to acquire? Who are you going to have to work with to be able to acquire those skills? What obstacles are you going to have to overcome? And probably the biggest obstacle we all have to overcome is self-pity. Every time things don't go the way we think they ought to, all right, we get what I call the poor me's. Poor me, I'm tired. Poor me, I'm sore. Poor me, I don't feel like doing this today. Poor me, I got sick when everybody else had a chance and I would have been able to succeed. There can be no poor me's. You have to be positive about the way you go about the habits that you need to create to accomplish the goals that you have. And because of that commitment, will you make the choices to do the right things, to be your best, and to care about other people? Those are the things that I think are going to be very, very important. So if you're going to be a team and you're going to create a team, everybody's got to understand togetherness is really, really important. Together, everybody's going to be able to accomplish more. But what are the key factors in people working together? The first one is respect. The second one is trust. You have to respect and trust the principles and values of the organization. You have to respect and trust the standard, right, that people set in the organization for everyone to work toward. And you have to respect and trust each other, which almost every issue we have on our team is because people don't respect the other guy. Something always happens. Probably the most important factors that you have to have a team, to have a good team. They seem so simple. Everybody's got the same goal. Rules are clearly defined. Everybody's together in spirit. In other words, what's happening in the game is more important than any of their individual deals might be. So when I worked for Bill Belichick in Cleveland, he wasn't recognized as one of the best coaches, but I could certainly see that he was, because the one thing that he did is he clearly defined everybody's role in the organization. Then we had one sign, only one sign. No signs about win a championship, none of that. One sign was do your job. He defined the kind of players we wanted to bring to the team, the kind of size they wanted to have, defined every coach's role and what they were supposed to do, everybody in personnel, what their job was, defined. And then everybody had to be responsible and accountable to it. Well, I don't think you can have a team if you don't get that on your team. Everybody's got to be committed to the same standard and the same principles and values. You got to get the right people on the bus, you got to get them in the right seats, and you got to get the wrong people off the bus. Because mediocre people don't like high achievers, and high achievers don't like mediocre people. And if you let those two things coexist in your organization, you're never going to have any togetherness. Because there's always going to be somebody looking over their shoulder saying, I have to do something, and that person over there doesn't have to do it, or refuses to do it, or doesn't do it. So that respect and trust that I talked about, it's not going to exist. So you think you're doing yourself a favor? You think you're doing yourself a favor by not making changes and not doing things that you need to do. And you know, it's harder to do when things are going well. Sales are good. We won a lot of games. We won a championship. I see problems in our organization that I'm going to have to fix. And it's hard to fix them because it affects people. But it needs to get done. And if you don't do it, regardless of what's happening, it's going to bite you in the butt. It's going to get you. It's going to get you down the road. So this eye that we have in Win about the individuals, the standards that they have to have, you got to get it. You're not going to be able to have good team chemistry and togetherness, and your organization is never going to be as successful if you don't do it. Now look, the best way to do this is, I talk about individuals. What I get every individual on our team to do, all right, you got to spend time. You got to care about people. You got to take time with them. Is I get them to tell me what their goals are. And as soon as a player tells me he wants to graduate from school and play in the NFL, I got him. He's done. Because everything he does, every behavior that he has, I can always confront him with the goal and the vision that he created for himself. What is your behavior doing to help you accomplish the goals that you set out and told me you wanted to accomplish? Tell me how this behavior is helping that. And if a guy doesn't show the ability or the discipline to do those things on a consistent basis, they really can't be part of the team. Because it takes a lot of positive energy. A lot of positive energy. And the word that I use a lot with our players is, what are you selling today? If you expect everything to work out well, everything that you do, you're always going to be disappointed, because it's never going to happen that way. It's never going to happen that way. If your expectation is things are going to be difficult, there are going to be challenges, and you look at those challenges as opportunities, right, to grow, develop, to accomplish something of significance, then you're going to have a much better chance to keep the kind of positive attitude about things and look at it that way. And the one careful thing I think that in your business, because I see it when I don't have much to do with our dealerships, but I see it, everything is so goal-oriented. Everything is so result-oriented. And I'm a process-oriented guy, that when you create these expectations for people, sometimes those expectations can affect them because it makes it much more difficult for them to stay focused on the process of things that they have to do to be successful, because they're so worried about reaching the goal. So the goal needs to be not something that's tangible all the time, not how many cars you sell, not how many games you win. It needs to be focused more toward, what do I have to do to win those games? What do we need to do to sell those cars? And that's where everybody needs to put their energy. And they got to trust in it and believe in it, all right? But you got to create, the sort of standard and operation that people can believe in, which I think is really important. But if you don't have positive people, and one of the most things that I see out there most, and question yourself about this. Don't judge other people and other things. Don't judge. Just go through one day and don't judge anything. I hear all the time, I don't like this guy because of the way he wears his hair. Well, who are you to judge that? How about the kind of person he is? How about the kind of things that he does? All right, don't judge. Be committed to the things that you need to do, that you can control, to be all that you can be. And if you have any leadership, you're going to try to affect that other person too, which I'm going to talk about, a little bit in a minute. So to be a team, everybody's got to buy into the standard. You got to have positive energy and attitude about it, and everybody's got to be responsible for their own self-determination, which means accountability. Once you define all these things, you got to make people be accountable to it. And if you think that not confronting people who don't do the right things is helping your organization, you're absolutely wrong. You're absolutely wrong. You lose respect of the person who knows they're not doing it right, and you're not confronting them, and you lose respect of all the people who see you see it happen, and you don't say anything about it. And this is one of the biggest things that I have to deal with our coaching staff. They want to be friends with the players. They want to be buddies. But if you don't make them do right, and you don't make them do the right things, on and off the field, doesn't matter, you're going to lose their respect, because they know what they're supposed to do. And they have an expectation for what they want you to do. Now, you don't have to be a jerk about how you do it, but make it about them. If you make it about them, remember when I just said, once they tell me they want to graduate from school and play in the NFL, I can always make it about them. You know, Rolando McClain was a great player for us, plays for the Cowboys now. He was the 8th guy picked in the draft. But when he was a freshman, he had an incident where he was walking by the fraternity house. Guys were calling him names and yelling at him. They were all drinking. He wasn't doing anything wrong. But he got upset and got mad, and he went and got into confrontation with one of them. The police came, and he could have really got an assault charge against him. But the police called me instead, so I bring Roe in, and I say, you just can't do stuff like that. You can't be a part of our team and do things like that. You would have got arrested, and it would have made everybody look bad. And he said, Coach, where I come from, people don't call you those kind of names, and you don't do something about it. He was ready to fight me. So then I said, I'm going to take a little different approach here. So I said to him, I said, you know, Ro, you're a freshman. You're starting. You're going to be a first-round draft pick. And being a first-round draft pick, you're probably going to make $30 million. If you would have got an assault charge and they would have called the police instead of calling me, a felony charge against you would make you a third-round draft pick because they would penalize you at least 2 rounds based on your character. So now you'd make about $3 million. So even though I agree that you did the right thing, for $27 million, is it worth it to be right? Now his answer was, Coach, you'll never have another problem like that out of me. But my point is the first approach was sort of about me, about Alabama football, about the organization, about the whole thing, and how he needed to be responsible to that. But when I made it about him, he was very understanding. He got it because he had a goal to do something, and the behavior was not going to help him do it. In fact, there were going to be tremendous consequences for that. So you got to be responsible and accountable for your actions, and you got to make people that way. And everybody's going to have to work to execute what you want to do. You know, you're going to reap what you sow. And it's going to take a tremendous amount of perseverance in your organization to have that team to be successful. You know, there's a commercial out there about Michael Jordan where, you know, he's in a limo and he's driving to a game, and they say he's taken 26 game-winning shots and missed. He's been in 384 NBA basketball games and lost. You think he's winning all the time. And he's taken 2,692 shots and missed. And then he opens the door to the car and walks in the stadium and says, but because I fail is why I succeed. So failure is nothing but an opportunity to learn and grow and get better at what you do. Because if you can't overcome adversity in your organization, just like us losing to Ole Miss this year, I mean, we got criticized, we got killed. I mean, unbelievable. But it was all about, my statement to the team was, how are you going to respond to a loss? How are you going to respond to a loss? You know, there can be no great victories in life without tremendous adversity. You know, in 1981 or 2, whenever I was at Ohio State, we were going to play Michigan, and Woody Hayes was still alive. And we had a senior tackle, and we played at Michigan, and they were number 1 in the country, and we were 17-point underdogs. We had lost a couple games to some good teams, but we still lost a couple games. Too many at Ohio State. We're getting criticized a lot. But Woody wasn't the coach, Earl Bruce was, but he came and spoke at the senior tackle. We had a horrible week of practice. Everybody was negative because they were getting criticized, and when people get criticized, you know, everybody starts doing this, you know, pointing the fingers at the other guy. It's not my fault. It's his fault. All right, so there was a lot of that going on. So things were not good. And I'm thinking we're going to really get beat badly by this team that we're going up there and play. At Michigan, 105,000 people, snowing, cold, 17-point underdogs, all this negativism on our team. Woody comes to the senior tackle. He makes the statement, there can be no great victories in life without tremendous adversity. He equates us going to play Michigan at Michigan, being underdogs and all this bad weather and all this negativism that we're dealing with, to the war in the Pacific, which is the greatest military victory of all times, because of Pearl Harbor, what we had to overcome. So he gives this speech. I mean, and we go, and the whole attitude of the whole team went from fear of failure to what an opportunity we have to create something of significance by going up there and winning this game. I mean, and we kicked the lining out their ass now. I mean, we beat them every way you could beat them. They didn't score a touchdown. They had the largest offense, or the most successful offense in the country. They were number one, and they didn't score a touchdown in the game. But you know, the interesting thing was Woody went on a trip with us, and he came in the locker room after the game. I mean, we played, you know, I mean, way over our heads emotionally and all that for 60 minutes in the game, and it was fun to see. But he said that was the last game of the season. He said, "I'm glad we don't have a game next week." And I'm looking at him like, hey, we finally arrived, man. I wish we played anybody in the country now. We'd beat anybody in the country. We're the best team in the country. He said, because there's not a team in the country we could beat next week. Because he understood, you know, how hard the players played, how emotional we were in the game. So, you know, but the point here is there can be no great victories in life without tremendous adversity. You have to be able to overcome adversity. And if you're going to do that, you have to be a relentless competitor. You know, I mean, does anybody here, can you tell me one word that describes any horror movie that you watch? What makes it a horror movie? What makes you afraid? What makes you afraid of Freddy Krueger in Friday the 13th? What makes you afraid? Can't kill the guy. Can't kill him. Relentless. You think you got him? His hand comes through the wall and chokes somebody, and we're off to the races again. We're scared to death. So, but this being a relentless competitor, because you never know what the other guy's thinking. You never know about what the competition is going through. You only look at it from your perspective. I think there's a boxing story that probably, I may not even get the names of these two guys right, because it's about 30 years ago, but Arturo Freeman, who is a Rocky-type boxer, you know, not very talented, kind of a grinder, hard worker, you know, not skilled, not athletic, and then Cyclone Hart, fighting for the middleweight championship. And Cyclone Hart is like Sugar Ray Leonard, Muhammad Ali, very talented, very skilled, doesn't always train the right way, doesn't always do the right things, but he's really gifted in what he does, and he's undefeated. The other guy's a grinder. He's lost a couple, Arturo Freeman. So these guys fight for the championship. And Cyclone Hart wore him out for the first 4 rounds of the fight. I mean, it was unbelievable. Because he hadn't trained, he couldn't sustain. All right, so the grinder, Arturo Freeman, keeps grinding, all right, punching, and eventually wins the fight. So crushed Cyclone Hart, who was a big favorite. I had the opportunity to be the middleweight champ and didn't take advantage of it. So they go in the locker room, and there was only a curtain between the press and where Cyclone Hart was. And in the press conference, Arturo Freeman makes the statement that I was hurting so bad in the 4th round, he had body punched me so much, if he would have hit me one more time in the ribs, I was going to quit. One more time, one more punch. But he never hit me again. And then I sustained. So my point is if you're a relentless competitor, now Cyclone Hart really felt bad. Not only did he lose the fight, he was 1 punch away from winning the fight because the guy was ready to quit, but he didn't know it. So you never know what the other guy's thinking. You never know where the competition is. So for you to be able to play the next play, not affected by the previous play, not affected by the scoreboard, but stay with what you need to do to be all you can be and be relentless to continue to play. Now, every time we play in a national championship game, everybody wants to talk about the national championship. We got a chance to win the national championship. We've been in 5 of them. We won 5 times. You know what I told every team before we played them? I don't want anybody to talk about the national championship. We're not talking about that. I don't want you to think about that. What I want you to do is think about you're going to play the best player you played against all year long. And you need to go play against that guy for 60 minutes in the game. And that's what you need to focus on, and that's what you need to prepare for. What do I need to do to dominate the competition, which is the best I played against all year? So let's go practice and let's go play and get ready to do that against the best we played against all year. Not thinking about the result, but thinking about what do I have to do to get the result. And that's something that I think is really, really important in terms of being a relentless competitor. Now, how do you get all this stuff? It's called leadership. And, you know, I think my job is basically about providing the leadership to develop the relationships to help people take advantage of their opportunities and make sure they have the discipline to do it. That's basically how I define my job. Now, if you're in any kind of managerial position, I think you should define your job the same way. Provide the leadership to develop the relationships. Don't forget that part. To help people create and accomplish the opportunities that they have and help them establish the discipline they need to do it. So what is leadership? If what I just said is true, leadership is about helping somebody else, affecting somebody else for their benefit. Not for your benefit, for their benefit. If you're doing it for your benefit, it's manipulation, and people can see right through that. You got to do it for their benefit. So you got to develop a relationship because they got to know you care. Hard to affect people if they don't think you care about them. And look, how do I spend all my time? How do you spend all your time? You spend all your time, if you're a manager, with the people who don't do the right things. That's what you do. That's where you spend all your time. I call them energy vampires. We got 5 guys on our team. They don't go to class. All right? They don't do the right thing in practice. They loaf all the time. Everything we talked about here, they don't do. Those are the guys I meet with every day to try to get them to do the right thing. They're energy vampires. What about the other 100 guys on the team that are doing the right thing that you want to affect? And they know you care about them so that you can continue to help them grow and develop to do the right things. So I make it a point, 3 guys. I'm going to meet with 3 guys who didn't do anything wrong every day to see how they're doing, to make them sure they know I care about them, their family, and what's happening in their life. Because I want to have a relationship with those people so that when we need to affect them, we have a chance to do it. So people got to know you care. If they think you only care about yourself and you're only trying to get them to do what you want them to do for them, they're going to think you're just a manipulator and you don't really care about them. And that's not really leadership. And you're not really going to affect them in a positive way. You got to serve other people. And sometimes your presence is really important in being able to do that. You know, when we had the tornado in Tuscaloosa, all right, we built 16 houses, rebuilt 16 houses. We spent $1.1 million on Nick's kids. All right, buying stuff for people, buying trucks so people could go to work, $50 gift certificates at Walmart for people that lost their homes. But nobody talks about that. Because I used to go to the shelters and just sit with the guy. And he'd tell me he lost his truck, his pickup truck. It's all people talk about. It's all I hear about now. I don't hear about the $1 million that we spent. All I hear about is you went to the shelters and talked to the people, your presence. You know when George Bush started going this way? When he went over Katrina and didn't land. And he looked down and said, there's nothing I can do here. No, there wasn't anything you could do. There wasn't anything I could do to get the guy's truck back at the shelter either. But your presence, you're there, you care, You're trying to help someone. You're serving somebody else. Because the biggest challenge that we all have is just be the best you can be. Now, they're giving me the wind-up sign, so I'm going to close here with this, and then I'll let you answer some questions. You know, I say this to every team, and I give them this sermon every team in the beginning of the season, because I want them to relate to this. You know, if you want to be happy for an hour, eat a steak. If you want to be happy for a day, go play golf. If you want to be happy for a week, go on a cruise. If you want to be happy for a month, go buy a new car. But if you want to be happy in your life, just ask yourself one question. If I didn't show up here today, would anybody miss my ass? Because then you know you accomplished something of significance.